Hello friends, welcome back. Today we are making kofta, which is a Mediterranean meatball, but we're going to use impossible instead. But you can use beef if you want to use beef. Those of you who are meat eaters. Those who are not, let's try it with the impossible burger plant-based food. And we're going to also accompany that with a tzatziki, which I'm going to start with. So let's get going with the tzatziki, which is served alongside meatballs and pita and whatever what have you in the Mediterranean meal, and it's so good. We got hooked on it when we visited Greece. So I'm going to start by putting in about a cup, maybe just a little dab more of a cup of Greek yogurt. You want that nice thick yogurt. It's almost like a sour cream. Then you're going to take this is going to make about, it'll cut up to about a cup of chopped cucumber. I like using the English cucumbers because you don't have to seed them. So, and you want to keep your peel, so definitely chop up, wash your peel. So I'm going to cut this into little pieces, and we're going to, I like it kind of chunky. I used to actually grate it into the tzatziki, but because that's how they served it in Greece. And then a friend of mine said, oh, it's really good, kind of chunky. It almost makes it sort of like a salad. So here we go. We already have our cucumber all cut up. So I'm going to take that cucumber, put it right into our wonderful yogurt. And I'm going to mix that in a minute. But first I'm going to use about half of a lemon to 1 cup. If you're going to double this, of course, use the whole lemon. You want the lemony flavor, but I don't want too much acid in this one. So here we go. I have a half a lemon in there. And then I've got my cucumber, which I'm going to sort of fold in because it is quite chunky. But the most important part, I think the most important ingredient for this really is the dill. The herbs are super important. So I've got that folded in. I'm going to take about a half of it's more like a teaspoon, half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of grated, or if you want to, pressed garlic. That's fresh garlic. Definitely use fresh garlic. It's really important. Now I'm going to take my dill, and I also have some chives. And the dill, I would say I've got a couple tablespoons of dill and about a tablespoon of chives. And then I've got almost a quarter cup here of my parsley. This is fresh parsley, and you want to chop it pretty small. And I see that I used a little bit of a small bowl for this, but we're getting there. It's okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to mix this up, and the best thing to do is make this well ahead of time and let it sit in the fridge, because you're going to want that garlic to sort of marry, blend into your yogurt and your what ends up being a dip. But this is a pretty traditional tzatziki. When we were in Greece, this is what they served at every meal, and we just really got hooked on it. If you like it a little more zingy, add more lemon. Do take and add just a pinch of salt. Give it a little bit of a kick, okay? So this looks really good. I'm just going to set this aside while I make up the kofta, which are the meatballs, using no meat. So here we are, and this is about 10 ounces, but I'm going to give you a recipe that uses 2 pounds, because when you're making this for a family, you need about that much. This is plenty for just 2 people. But anyway, here we have our 10 ounces of plant-based food. That's our meat. To that, we want to add about a teaspoon of, this is minced onion. So mine is actually dried. You can do it fresh. It would be even better. About a half a teaspoon of nutmeg. Let's throw that right in. I don't know, this is about a quarter teaspoon of black pepper. If you want it more peppery, you can do that. Again, 1 teaspoon, it's about 2 cloves of garlic, which I have pressed. We've got some fresh garlic going there. This is the cinnamon. We want a teaspoon of cinnamon. All right. It's a lot of little herbs, but they all come together so beautifully. This one is allspice. We want about a half a teaspoon of allspice. There you go. We want about a half a teaspoon of salt. And I think at this point, I'm gonna sort of get these things mixed in, because the last thing we're gonna add is the herbs and the pine nuts. If you happen to be allergic to pine nuts, you can certainly skip that, but the pine nuts really, oh man, I know, I just love I love the flavor. Do make sure you chop them up, because trying to shape a meatball with pine nuts, it won't work. It'll stick out and they'll burn, because I'm going to make these in the oven. There are two ways to do kofta, and the traditional way is actually to fry them. But I'm not big on frying. If I can pass on frying, I will. So I've kind of worked on it and perfected the bake it in the oven thing. So I bake it at about 425. Oh man, for 8 to 10 minutes. It doesn't take very long because they're very small, and you don't want them turning out too hard and too overdone. So those seasonings look like they're well mixed in. So now the pine nuts, well chopped. And again, I've got it's almost a quarter cup of fresh parsley, all minced very, very small. You really want to mince it. So, and you can do this, like I said, just use regular meat if you don't want to use Impossible. But I'll tell you, it works really well. I'm really impressed with it. Now, this isn't a meatball that traditionally, no breadcrumbs are used, no eggs. It just doesn't need it. Even with the beef, it's not going to need it. It needs that less because with plant-based, because the plant-based is really dense, and it makes a great meatball without all those. So in the way, it can be vegan. So here we go. I think this is pretty well mixed in there, and I'm going to shape one of them to show you what the shape is like, and then finish it up after. We'll take a little break in a minute, but here we go. So let me get my scoop. It makes it a little bit easier. I have my handy dandy scoop. It's going to take about yay much. And it looks big, but this is how you shape them. So you're going to kind of form it into your hand. See how my hand is sort of cupped? It's going to end up looking a little bit like a football. And if you really don't want to do that, of course you can make a round one. But the traditional kofta look just like that. Do you want to get a picture of that? So I'm going to continue to stand here, roll the rest of them, put them in the oven at 450 for about 8 to 10 minutes. And I'll give you a better time on that. We'll let you know how they turn out. And then we're going to sit down to a meal of kofta and pita and tzatziki. So I'll see you in a little bit. Hey, welcome back. So I got the kofta out of the oven. I tested the temperature. I got them up to about 160, so I know they're done. And here is the final product with the tzatziki. And traditionally, you can take a pita, and if the pita opens up, this one doesn't look like it's going to even open. These are store-bought, so we can blame them for that. But usually you can open up this pocket. Yeah, here it goes. And you can fill it with the meat and the tzatziki, maybe a little lettuce, tomatoes, onions, and you have yourself a gyro. If you want to just eat it like this is the way we enjoy it. Just kind of a little nibble of that with a little bit of a little tzatziki on the side and pita to accompany it. Go for it. It's delicious. I can't wait for you guys to try this. I want to hear all about it. So let's meet Thursday at 4. I'll see you then.